Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So today, welcome everyone. Today I would like to share some chapters from Anguttara Nikaya Book of Ones. I'll be reading some translations by Bhikkhu Siddhartha, some by Tanisara Bhikkhu, and some by Bhante Ananda. I have just kept it all of it from in my word. So I just read from there. Example on giving up the hindrances. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that gives rise to sensual desire, or when it has arisen, makes it increase and grow like the future of beauty, like the feature of the beauty. When you apply the mind irrationally to the feature of beauty, sensual desire arises, and once arisen, it increases and grows. Before like going into the explanation part, I just want these whatever we are reading today has so much of repetition, so we need to be like patient. And it's like two parts, opposite sides. One is to the wholesome, one is to the unwholesome. So here we are going through the giving up the hindrances. Why it is important for us to give up the hindrances? What happens if you give attention to the hindrances? Here, if we give attention to the sensual desire, then when we are giving attention to the feature of the beauty, oh, this is beautiful, whatever forms we are seeing, if we give attention to them, whatever sensual hearing we are hearing, if we are giving attention to them, then it grows, and ultimately we are not on path. So why need to we need to give up that sensual desire? And it's opposite. The wholesome side, we have another. It's like sentences. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that gives rise to ill will, or when it has arisen, makes it increase and grow like the feature of harshness. When you apply the mind irrationally to the feature of harshness, ill will arise, and once arisen, it increases and grows. So this is the second hindrances. In the second hindrances, it's the second one, ill will. When we give attention to the ill will, whatever thought of ill will we are getting, then the harshness, maybe in our action, maybe in our words, the harshness will increase. So when that giving attention to them makes it increase and grow. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that gives rise to dullness and drowsiness, or when they have arisen, makes them increase and grow, like discontent, sloth, yawning, sleepiness after eating, mental sluggishness. When you have a sluggish mind, dullness and drowsiness arises, and once arisen, they increase and grow. So every time we get a hindrance of sloth and torpor, we just ignore it and just don't give attention to them. So what happens if you give attention to them? Then they increase and grow, and the discontent, yawning, sleepiness, mental sluggishness, these all will come. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that gives rise to restlessness and remorse, or when they have arisen, makes them increase and grow like an unsettled mind. When you have no peace of mind, restlessness and remorse arises, and once arisen, they increase and grow. We all know that we all experience restlessness. What happens when our mind becomes restless? We give attention to restlessness and our mind is unsettled. It's like water being agitated. The same way our mind is also unsettled. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that gives rise to doubt, or when it has arisen, makes it increase and grow like irrational application of mind. When you apply the mind irrationally, doubt arises, and once arisen, it increases and grows. This is the other hindrance when we give attention, irrational application of the mind. Our mind is like, it goes to all just to check if it's right or not. It's not confirmed yet, and the mind is still in doubt. These are first five hindrances which are on the unwholesome sides if we give attention. What happens? What are the antidotes for those to remove? Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that prevents sensual desire from arising, or when it has arisen, abandons it like the feature of ugliness. When you apply the mind rationally to the feature of ugliness, sensual desire does not arise, or if it has already arisen, it's given up. So here, for the sensual desire, the antidote is ugliness. Sometimes if people are having so much of sensual desire, they are advised like the foulness of the body or contemplating the body inside out. This is the foulness type. Ugliness. Sensual desire has its antidote as ugliness. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that prevents ill will from arising, or when it has arisen, abandons it like the heart's release by love. When you apply the mind rationally on the heart's release by love, ill will does not arise, or if it has already arisen, it doesn't give up. It's given up. So if we want to let go of ill will, so we need to bring loving kindness. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that prevents dullness and drowsiness from arising, or when they have arisen, gives them up like the elements of intuitive persistence and vigor. When you are energetic, dullness and drowsiness does not arise, or if they have already arisen, they are given up. So here, when we have rest, dullness, sloth, and torpor, then we need to have the persistence and consistent initiative to keep the practice going. We do some walking meditation and come back, or take a short nap. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that prevents restlessness and remorse from arising, or when they have arisen, gives them up like peace of mind. When your mind is peaceful, restlessness and remorse does not arise, or if they have already arisen, they are given up. So restlessness has its antidote as peace of mind. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that prevents doubt from arising, or when it has arisen, gives it up like rational application of mind. When you apply the mind rationally, doubt does not arise, or if it's already arisen, it's given up. Here we can see if it's already arisen, then it's given up. In each of that sentences, we can see that there is right effort. And the doubt has antidote as the rational application of mind. When we are in doubt regarding am I doing the 6R rightly or some part of the understanding, then we keep our practice going and the understanding will come to us. Like I'm in still doubt if I'm still in fourth jhana or I'm in infinite space. And if I keep on practicing, after keeping the practice going, then we'll come to understand that this is compassion, and the loving kindness has its limit. And from there, we have compassion. This continual application of the mind just removes the doubt from arising. If it's already arising, it's given up. Now we'll go to the another chapter, a single thing. I am reading from Tanisaro Bhikkhu's translation. I do not see a single thing that when undeveloped is as undirected as the mind. The mind when undeveloped, unplaned. The mind when undeveloped is unplaned. Here we can see in the first Dhammapada verses, mind is the forerunner. In this chapter, we'll know why the mind is the forerunner. What happens if the mind is not directed well? Why it's dangerous if we leave the mind unguarded. I'll read from the beginning once again. I do not see a single thing that when undeveloped is as undirected as the mind. The mind when undeveloped is unplaned. This unplaned is easily bent or directed. Unplaned means it's not easily bent and it's not ill-directed mind. I do not see a single thing that when developed is as directed as the mind. The mind when developed is planed. When the mind is developed properly, then it's easily bent and we can mould it easily. It's like softening on the corners. I do not see a single thing that when undeveloped leads to such great harm as the mind. The mind when undeveloped leads to great harm. In this, when the mind is undeveloped, it leads to great harm. Why? Because we are not training the mind to be with the wholesome state. We are not applying the right efforts. We are giving the attention to the unwholesome parts. We are giving attention to the hindrances. We don't know them as hindrances. Then it leads to great harm. I do not see a single thing that when developed leads to such great benefit as the mind. The mind when developed leads to great benefit. We can see when we are practicing the right effort and the Brahma Viharas, we see that the mind is like having more beneficial. And because we are having this mind as the sixth sense, like we are including in the senses, because of that, because of its development, we can get out of this samsara. That's the greatest benefit. I do not see a single thing that when undeveloped and unapparent leads to such great harm as the mind. The mind when undeveloped and unapparent leads to great harm. Same thing. I do not see a single thing that when developed and understood leads to great benefit as the mind. The mind when developed and understood leads to great benefit. We can see the development by the practice of meditation and the understanding by the level of understanding we are having in our practice. It is beneficial. I do not see a single thing that when undeveloped and uncultivated leads to such great harm as the mind. The mind when undeveloped and uncultivated leads to great harm. Undeveloped and uncultivated. If the mind is not having any development, like if you are not practicing any precepts, if you are not cultivating any mindfulness, then it is undeveloped and it leads to great harm. I do not see a single thing that when developed and cultivated leads to such great benefit as the mind. The mind when developed and cultivated leads to great benefit. We are developing the mind and also cultivating the mindfulness, loving kindness. In this development, we get the great benefit. I do not see a single thing that, when undeveloped and uncultivated, brings about such suffering and stress as the mind. The mind, when undeveloped and uncultivated, brings about suffering and stress. We know if it's not cultivated, it's definitely suffering and stress. I do not see a single thing that, when developed and cultivated, brings about such happiness as the mind. The mind, when developed and cultivated, brings about happiness. I think everybody will like, if we are developing our mind and cultivating as a practice in the dream, then we will definitely brings happiness in our lives. Now we are moving to the next chapter, a single thing. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that, when it's not cultivated, is so very harmful as the mind. A wild mind is very harmful. We can see immersion in the sensual desire or giving attention to any of the five hindrances. It makes the mind wild. We don't know what we are doing, and sometimes all the overindulgences in any of those five hindrances makes the mind wild, and it's very harmful. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that, when it is cultivated, is so very beneficial as the mind. A cultivated mind is very beneficial, and we are cultivating the Brahma Viharas along with right efforts, and it's very beneficial. I think everyone in this call have experienced the like jhana, joy, happiness that the Buddha has described in the suttas. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that, when it's not guarded, is so very harmful as the mind. An unguarded mind is very harmful. Before the practice, also, before coming into the meditation practice, we know our mind is unguarded. We used to just walk on the road, then if we hear some noise of the song or some other smell, we know that it's smell from the bakery, so we just go and we crave for it, we purchase it, and it's not guarded. It's not only for the smell, and even in the consumption of the mind, it is not guarded, so it's process very harmful. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that, when it is guarded, is so very beneficial as the mind. A guarded mind is very beneficial. Here, when I listen the word guarded, even in this sutta, uh, the accountant sutta, I'm not remembering the name, in which the Buddha says all step by step to the Nibbana. In that also, Buddha says when the mendicant has first come to he has been ordained, then he asked him to like Bante, would you like to?
Hanaka Mogalana Sutta, 107, Majjhima.
In that, the Buddha suggests the mendicant to first keep his senses guarded. First practice the precepts, then keep his senses guarded. It's the second step, I guess. That sutta reminds me over here when I listen to the word guarded. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that, when it's not protected, is so very harmful as the mind. An unprotected mind is very harmful. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that, when it is protected, is so very beneficial as the mind. A protected mind is very beneficial. Here, the word protection has been used. It's also has the same meaning as guarded and unguarded as well. But this protection can be also understood as the metta protection. We can cultivate the loving kindness as our protection as well. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that, when it's not restrained, is so very harmful as the mind. An unrestrained mind is very harmful. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that, when it is restrained, is so very beneficial as the mind. A restrained mind is very beneficial. Again, when we hear the word restrain, not restrain and the restrain, it's not like the suppression kind of restraint, but it's just keeping the limits to the mind, to not go beyond it, to not just keeping the mind within the limits of the precepts. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that, when it is not cultivated, guarded, protected, and restrained, is so very harmful as the mind. An uncultivated, unguarded, unprotected, and unrestrained mind is very harmful. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that, when it is cultivated, guarded, protected, and restrained, is so very beneficial as the mind. A cultivated, guarded, protected, and restrained mind is very beneficial. So here, uh, regarding the mind, all these chapters will end, and later on it's about the mind in some of the things that we just said in this thing. And we have been cultivating, guarding, protecting our mind, and restricting it to the precepts, to not to break the precepts, and sticking to the precepts, cultivating Brahma Viharas, guarding the mind, all these things like just come in practice of the dream, so inclined towards the Dhamma, so uh, deep rooted the Dhamma, and it's like so. Bante would say like we are the Suktavada. These are the like completely from the core suttas. It's we are practicing what the Buddha has taught. So close to that. Next, we'll go for the another chapter, the chapter on a spike. Mendicants, suppose a spike of rice or barley was pointing the wrong way. If if you trod on it with hand or foot, there is no way it could break skin and produce blood. Why is that? Because the spike is pointing the wrong way. In the same way, it is quite impossible for a mendicant whose mind is pointing the wrong way to break ignorance, produce knowledge, and realize extinguishment. Why is that? Because their mind is pointing the wrong way. Mendicants, suppose a spike of rice or barley was pointing the right way. If you trod on it with hand or foot, it may well break the skin and produce blood. Why is that? Because the spike is pointing the right way. In the same way, it is quite possible for a mendicant whose mind is pointing the right way to break ignorance, produce knowledge, and realize extinguishment. Why is that? Because the mind is pointing the right way. Here we can see which path, which way we have to then similarly with a rice or a barley spike. We can see it would be like this. And if we are not directing it to the right direction, if we are directing it in the right direction, it may pierce and blood may come out. So in the same way, if we are directing our mind in the right way, it is possible for us to break through ignorance, produce knowledge, and we can attain arahantship, to break through the samsara. Mendicants, when I have comprehended the mind of a person whose mind is corrupted, I understand if this person were to die right now, they would be cast down to hell. Why is that? Because their mind is corrupted. Corruption of mind is the reason why some sentient beings, when their body breaks up after death, are reborn in a place of loss, a bad place, and the world hell. Mendicants. When I have comprehended the mind of a person whose mind is pure, I understand. If this person were to die right now, they would be raised up to heaven. Why is that? Because their mind is pure. Purity of mind is the reason why some sentient beings, when their body breaks up after death, are reborn in a good place, a heavenly realm. We can see the corruptions of the mind, even the Buddha is talking about here, are the greed, hatred, and delusion. When a person who is having mind corrupted, then if he dies right now, then he'll be reborn in a bad place, in a place of loss, or even in an underworld hell. Why? Because his mind is corrupted. He is having greed, hatred, and delusion. And if a person whose mind is pure, if he is practicing Brahma Viharas or meditation, then his mind is pure. Pure here in the sense he's not having any hindrances, I guess. Bante, would you like to share what is like the pure mind?
One way of saying the pure mind is without hindrances, as you kind of mentioned, is that that mind does not have the hindrances at this point of time. Now, the other way of thinking about the progressing purity of the mind is that certain things are given up permanently. So, a pure mind can be looked at from the point of view of an arahant who has no kind of uh, negative thoughts which can arise in him. There are no kind of cravings that can arise in it. That is the purest kind of mind. But one other way of looking at it as at a practitioner level is when you are in jhana, when there are no hindrances, that time also your mind is pure, and that time also you can do certain things which is not possible when your mind is with cravings.
Thank you, Mantri. And I think here it is talking about like the normal people who are practicing and not actually the arhat, because he is being reborn and the arhat not reborn. And when we are practicing the purity of mind by practice of jhana, then at the time of death, then we'll be reborn in a heavenly place, a good place. Suppose, mendicants, there was a lake that was cloudy, murky, and muddy. A person with clear eyes, standing on the bank, would not see the calmness and mussels and pebbles and gravel and schools of fish swimming about or staying still. Why is that? Because the water is clouded. In the same way that a mendicant whose mind is clouded would know what's for the watch for their own good, the good of other, or the good of both, or that they would realize any superhuman destination in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones. This is quite impossible. Why is that? Because their mind is clouded. Suppose, mendicants, there was a lake that was transparent, clear, and unclouded. A person with clear eyes standing on the bank would see the calm and mussels and pebbles and gravel and schools of fish swimming about or staying still. Why is that? Because the water is unclouded. In the same way that a mendicant whose mind is not clouded would know what's for their own good, the good of another, or the good of both, or that they would realize any superhuman destination in knowledge and vision, worthy of the noble ones. This is quite possible. Why is that? Because their mind is unclouded. Here, I think it's almost like clear. It's so simple in the language. Uh, Here, a person is standing behind in the lake and in front of the lake, and the water is cloudy. And even though he is having a nice eye, clear eyes, he is not able to see it clearly because the water is muddy. In the same way, if a person with clear eyes and the water is stagnant and clear, not muddy, then he could able to see all the fishes moving and all the pebbles clearly. Why? Because the water is clear and here its water is not clear. Here the simile is given for the mind. If the mind is clouded, if the mind is like not clear, all hindrances are present and he cannot see the reality as it is. He cannot see the fishes, he cannot see the present moment as present because his mind is somewhere in the past or somewhere in the future or somewhere in between as hindrances. If his mind is clear, then he could know what is good for himself, what is good for another, and what is good for both. Here, it is also connected to one more sukta, right, Bante? Maybe Rahulavada sukta. Good for us, good for both before speaking, and we should cultivate the same thing.
That is MN 21. That is a simile of the saw. In the simile of the saw, also the Buddha is talking about how to kind of respond to anything which is there. So when a person knows what is good for him, what is beneficial for him, then he will speak in a with metta, with karuna, mudita, and upekha. And also he will spread the same thing around everybody. So that is how this is there. And then there are other suttas also in Anguttara Nikaya and Samyutta Nikaya, where the Buddha says that how to address in a situation where you have to kind of say to somebody's mistake. You have to point out somebody's mistake. If there is a senior person, if it is a junior, if it is among your colleagues, then you have to understand how your mind is there. So in this way, if you are clear about how your mind is there and how your mind is there at the current moment, how Buddha is very clearly mentioning over here, because Buddha is giving those similes that we can visualize certain things which are concepts which are a little bit complicated. And he is very kind of clear way. He is mentioning that, see, if in a lake, if you can see these things, then you can appreciate those things which are there in the lake. And in the same way, when your mind is calm, you can see the working of the mind and appreciate what is the working of the mind. So that's my okay.
I think Monday there are so many similes that we can make like a similes week. In that week we can discuss all the similes or whatever similes we can give
Yes.
from the suttas.
Yes, definitely. I like that. And I think Ajahn Chah's, there was one book about Ajahn Chah's simile. And I thought that those similes were given by Ajahn Chah. Then I found out when I was started reading suttas that most of those similes were coming from the Buddha. So Buddha was kind of considered to be very good at similes. And he used to say that these similes I have never heard. It has come to my mind. In many of the suttas, it is clearly mentioned.
Expand.
Yes, good.
Okay, we'll continue. Just as mendicants, the boxwood is said to be the best kind of tree in terms of its pliability and workability. So too, I do not see a single thing that's as pliable, workable as the mind when it is developed and cultivated. A mind that is developed and cultivated is pliable and workable. This pliable means easily bent. We can see our mind every time we zigzag, we just changing its inclination from the unwholesome to wholesome, towards the hindrances or away from the hindrances. So our mind is like flexible. We need to like guide it to the right direction. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that's as quick to change as the mind. So much so that it's not easy to give a simile for how quick the mind changes. I think every time we are experiencing some craving, if we zigzag it, we can see it's just a fraction of second. And Buddha here has said, like, it's not easy to give a simile how quick the mind changes. So the mind, we know how every action we are doing, if the mind is rooted in craving, if we are zigzagging it, and we are coming back to a loving kindness or a wholesome state. Instead of acting from there, we are coming to this. The mind moves so fastly, and the perceptions change immediately, and the way we are looking, it changes. And it's so quick. We would have experienced it in so many ways. Even in our meditation practice, when we are at beginning also, we can know for ourselves that the mind is changing so fast. This mind mendicants is radiant, but it's corrupted by passing corruptions. The corrupted mind, because of that corruption, the mind is like everybody has the same mind. Everybody can experience the nibbana. Everybody can get enlightenment. Everybody can experience the same amount of joy that we are experiencing. But the difference is their mind has that corruption. It's like the dust. Like if the rod is there and up there is rust forming up, and if we clear it up, then it will be nice and clean. And if we are like taking care of it properly with the loving kindness, then it's fine. If we leave it without taking care of that rod, then its own rust will eat up. In the same way, our own corrupted mind will let us be in the samsara. The mind mendicants is radiant. It is freed from passing corruptions. When it's freed, then the mind is radiant. Okay. We'll move to the another chapter, the chapter on a finger snap. This is like the similes that Buddha is taking for the finger snap.
One other way of looking at the last sentence is that when you are six-aring, then what happens is that the radiance is visible. So Bante used to also say that when you are in meditation, you 6 hour, then you will see that there is a kind of relief which is there. So when you 6 hour, then that is your radiance you can see of the mind and come back to the object of meditation. So you can continuously kind of get rid of those corruptions also. There is a way, the right effort which the Buddha is giving can be used to kind of let go of those corruptions.
And Bante would also say every time you are siksaring, when you are coming back, you are experiencing the mini nibbanas. The chapter on a finger snap. This mind mendicants is radiant, but it is corrupted by passing corruptions. An unlearned, ordinary person does not truly understand this. So I say that the unlearned, ordinary person has no development of the mind. This mind mendicants is radiant, and it is freed from passing corruptions. A learned noble disciple truly understands this. So I say that the learned noble disciple has development of the mind. So if the mind is corrupted, then the ordinary people do not understand and they cannot develop their mind. And if we know, if we are siksaring it, then we are developing our mind. If mendicants, a mendicant cultivates a mind of loving kindness, even as long as a finger snap, they are called a mendicant who does not lack absorption, who follows the teacher's instructions, who responds to advice, and who does not eat the country's alms in vain. How much more so those who must make much of it? So here Buddha is saying, even for a finger snap time, if we are cultivating the mind of loving kindness, then we are following the teacher's teaching. We are following the Buddha's teaching. And who responds to the advice, if we are we are taking the advices from the Buddha and we are following it, then we do not eat the country's alms in vain. That means we are consuming the food and we are being like benefit for ourselves and benefit for others. And here Bante, is it saying for the monks?
This is for the monks. Now, one way, one of our monks in when I was there in Thailand explained to me about this concept is that when a monk comes into the Sangha, He is untrained, okay, and he has to go through the training. At that time, when he is being given alms and he's given food, now that is considered a debt to the monk. So how does the monk repay the debt? The monk repays the debt by cultivating his meditation, by cultivating his understanding of the Dhamma. When he is cultivating his understanding of the Dhamma, then what happens is the alms which has been given to him is giving merit to the giver in that proportion. See, a monk who has just started off may not have even the jhana experience, and he is doing the training. So if a lay person has given him food or has given him gift or have given him support, now this support will give him as for a person who is not even having a jhana, the merits the layperson is getting. But say as the monk develops into jhanas, then the layperson will get the merits for the person who given to a jhanic person. Then later on, the person maybe becomes a sotapanna, or maybe becomes a Saddhagami, or maybe becomes an Anagami, maybe becomes an Arahant. And when that monk has progressed in his holy life, the lay person who had given him in the past also the food or help or support, they get in retrospect this merit. That is the reason Buddha is saying that there is a debt which is there. So if you have cultivated your mind, you are repaying that debt, because the lay people who have supported you, they get the merit for your accomplishments and your development of mind, the lay person. That's the reason that how the debt is repaid also.
Okay. Thank you, Pankaj. If a mendicant develops a mind of love, even as long as a finger snap, they are called a mendicant who does not lack absorption, who follows the teacher's instructions, who responds to advice, and who does not eat the country's alms in vain. How much more so those who make much of it? In the before sukta, it was the cultivates the mind of loving kindness. Here we are developing the mind of loving kindness. If mendicants, a mendicant focuses on a mind of loving kindness, even as long as a finger snap, they are called a mendicant who does not lack absorption, who follows the teacher's instructions, who responds to advices, and does not eat the country's alms in vain. How much more so those who make much of it? Mendicants. Intention shapes all phenomena. Whatsoever that are unskillful, part of the unskillful, on the side of unskillful. Intention is the first of those phenomena to arise, and unskillful phenomena follow right behind. We can see while starting off the meditation, we say, we just keep the intention of loving kindness, with the feeling of loving kindness. And even as we go deeper, we just have the intention to observe the quiet mind or whatever object of meditation is. Here we are giving intention to the wholesome part. What happens if the intention is on the unwholesome part? We can see in this line, intention shapes all phenomena, whatever that are unskillful, part of unskillful, on the side of unskillful. If there is an intention of ill will, or if there is an intention of anger, then when the intention is there, when if we give attention to them, then it increases, and we can see then the unskillful phenomena follow right behind. Then the intention of ill will goes, and we just act from the anger of some ill-minded mind. So we need to know where our intention is, what's the intention behind whatever we are speaking. Sometimes what happens is, even though the intention is wholesome, but the pitch of our voice makes completely difference. So we need to be be mindful of whatever speech we are doing, whatever action we are doing. Maybe sometimes in practical life, if the intention is to help someone, but sometimes it's harshly, or we just push them out of their comfort zones, even though it's wholesome thing, but the opposite person may not take it in a wholesome way. It's up to them, but our intention is clear, but we don't want them to suffer in the long term. That's why we are taking them out of their comfort zone, at least for a while, and later on they'll get habituated for that. Bante, would you like to say something regarding this?
The Buddha is saying that the intention is the first phenomena to arise. As you kind of pointed out correctly, that when we start the meditation, we start with an intention. Hugh also used to kind of say that have that intention of keeping the body in balance. He kind of teaches yoga, which kind of incorporates the twin principles. So the intention is the start. When we have the right intention, then the right things we can do. If we have the unskillful intentions, then what would happen is all our actions will follow. Like one way of looking at the causality is that if we think things which are unskillful, then what would happen? We'll speak something unwholesome. Then what would happen is our action which will follow will be unwholesome. So what starts out as an intention of a kind of, oh, this person is bad, and we think bad thoughts about him. Then we kind of end up speaking something bad about him. And then we end up doing something bad. So in this way, the intention is the start. And when you recognize this is the intention, and all karma is based on intention. So any karmic result, like there was a blind monk who was an arahant, and he was walking in a meditation. And in the morning, some of the monks came and said that when he was doing the walking meditation, there were ants which came in his way, and they were killed. So the Buddha said that he had no intention. He's born blind. So he had no way of knowing about ants and ants coming in the way. So there was no intention. Because there was no intention, there is no karmic effect which is there on the monk. So that is how we can understand this.
And I could remember that when I attended a retreat, intention is the karma. There's also the sentence that
Yes.
they use.
Bhante used to say that also.
Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that gives rise to unwholesome, unskillful qualities, or makes unskillful qualities decline, like negligence. When you are negligent, unskillful qualities arise and skillful qualities decline. Maybe I'll read it once again. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that gives rise to unskillful qualities or makes skillful qualities decline, like negligence. When you are negligent, unskillful qualities arise and skillful qualities decline. It's the same thing. If we are not mindful, then the hindrances keeps on growing. And if we are mindful and if we are not negligent, then the wholesome qualities improve and the unwholesome qualities are declined. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that gives rise to skillful qualities or makes unskillful qualities decline, like diligence. When you are diligent, skillful qualities arise and unskillful qualities decline. When we are not mindful, then because of our negligence, our unskillful qualities increase. And when we are diligent, when we are mindful and we siksar it, then the unwholesome, unskillful qualities decline and the skillful qualities increase. That we are cultivating the Brahma Viharas, getting our mind back to the loving kindness. Then we are increasing our wholesome qualities. Mendicants, I do not see a single thing that gives rise to unskillful qualities or makes skillful qualities decline, like laziness. When you are lazy, unskillful qualities arise and skillful qualities decline. It's not only to the mindfulness, negligence, diligence part, but even the laziness, the sloth and torpor. If we are not active and our body is lazy, even our mind sometimes, even though we are active in our body, our mind becomes like lazy, not wanting to indulge in anything, just want to rest. Then also we are not giving attention to where our mind is. Then the unwholesome, unskillful qualities increase and skillful qualities decline. Maybe here I stop reading. That's what it was I was going to offer for today.
And one more thing about laziness is the Buddha is giving a encouragement to the monks in one of the suttas, where the Buddha says that you have to think about what your time is worth. And this also has the Maranana Smriti, which is the recollection of death, that you have to remind yourself that you have limited time. So in this time, if you kind of waste those time, then you will be kind of regretting the wasting of the time, because you do not know when your time ends, because when your time comes to go, then there is nothing which can be stopped. So one has to kind of be arousing the effort in oneself when one feels lazy. So that's basically something which is there in many of the monastic, because they think, oh, we have a lot of time. We have the whole day with ourselves. In Thailand, there used to be a lot of talk about effort, over effort, under effort, and those things can kind of make a difference. So you have to have a balance. You should not have over effort also, where the Buddha is also pointing out in one of the suttas, where the Buddha says is that over meditation has occurred. So when that has occurred, then he rests for some time. And Bhante Vimaramsi used to kind of give a story about there was a long retreat going on. The students were kind of becoming very kind of jaded in the practice. So Bhante said that go and have fun. Go to the river, or there was a pond or river or something like that in Dhammasukha. So he sent them off to that, and then when they came, they were kind of refreshed. So the Bhante says that, how was your meditation? She said, we did not meditate, we went, had fun. So they said, you are now all smiling. So that was your meditation, to have fun and smile. So certain times, so every time the balance is the thing which is there, the Buddha is saying that not to bend in any of the direction overly. So laziness is one of the things kind of can prevent one, say when they get up in the morning for your daily meditation, and you feel sleepy, then you can just kind of remind yourself that this is something which I have an opportunity to do now, and maybe I may not be able to do it again. So, and I may become busy in the day again. Sometimes you say, okay, we'll do it in the evening, but evening somebody may come to the house, some event may come up. So just to remind ourselves and to continue the practice. So today, this kind of reading of those kind of these are each are one sutta. It is considered as one sutta. So these are, I think, 50 suttas you have read in this one session, which is a kind of a great merit. They say that listening to one sutta is also a great merit. So we have listened to 50 suttas today.
But I have a question, like regarding the Marananusati. Recently, I heard a talk from Mahabodhi Society, Hyderabad. The Bante was explaining the Marananusati. Is it like beneficial only for us, or is it like if somebody in our family is ill and we are like reflecting, not getting attached towards them, and we know that even our body is also subjected to the same thing, and uh, even they are going to die, we are going to die. Is it the same? Like we can use it to the other people to understand and to let go of attachments?
Yes. We can use it for any kind of phenomena which is there. So, like if you get a new car, so you have to kind of remind yourself that this car will get a scratch, this car will get into an accident, this car will kind of get into repairs, it will kind of, the paint will kind of fade away. So we have to look at everything and remind ourselves that these things have a universal principles which cannot be changed. So the Buddha is saying that there are certain principles which are there which cannot be changed. What is subject to death become subject to not death. That cannot be asked by any mendicant, any Brahma, any Mara, any Deva cannot ask that to change. So in that sense, you have to just see the phenomena which is there, the reality which is there. We are not saying that we have to cultivate a mind which is kind of rigid, but we are cultivating a mind which is tuned to the reality of the world. So reality of the world is that anything which you kind of get will kind of decay, will kind of become ill, will become, there is death involved in that thing which is there, any phenomena which is there. Osho used to talk about one story. He said that there was a professor in Harvard University, professor of philosophy. He purchased a some big car. I don't know what car, but I think Ferrari. Let us say Ferrari. He purchased a Ferrari because he had a lifelong dream of having a Ferrari. So he was about 40, 50 years of age. He purchased a Ferrari, and he was going through the traffic, and somebody scratched the Ferrari. So this person who is a means a professor of philosophy in Harvard University started crying because it takes a lot of time and effort and money to repair it. Because they are made in such a manner that it takes a lot of money to kind of repair it. Cannot just scratches there. You have to remove the whole panel, side panel, and there may be kind of a very big cost. So he started crying, and his mother came there to console him. He became so much disturbed because he did not understand the basic principle, and he thought that when I have a Ferrari, then I can be with the Ferrari forever. But what happens is that there is a change in the Ferrari. So somebody has to, no problem, please leave if you have some work. So in that sense, we have to have this recollection of the impermanence of that in anything which we have in life. So is there any other questions? Yes.
Bhante, earlier you mentioned a reference to Buddha's advice on how to address mistakes from like seniors or juniors or colleagues. So maybe later, if Bhante don't mind to share those references, that would be
yes
useful.
I'll have to find the sutta link. I may have it saved somewhere, because that is there are a few suttas which are there based on how to kind of address those things. One is you have to have a mind of loving kindness when you are addressing. You have to address it for the benefit of the person or the situation or the community, for the benefit of it. Then when you address it, you have to address it at a time which is the appropriate time. So if somebody is there with group of people, when you address something about certain people, then they will become angry because they're losing face. But if it is done in a private, he may be more receptive. So in that way, the Buddha is giving it. I'll share the sutta link.
Thank you, Bhante.
Any other questions? I'm sorry, this over here there is every now it is rain restricted, so every time in the evening there is a program. So now it has started. It will be there for 7:30. Are you able to hear this background?
Yep.
Okay, Edward.
Yes. Hello. I was just regarding the first sutta. I was thinking about something like it. I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts about this. And then I thought why does it sometimes take me so long to understand or to get into the meditation? And this is because I tend to give so much attention to like the unwholesome part, like to like they have a stick and then you just whack it or something, instead of more the 6R way is just let it go and just use a positive guideline just to not take it so personally. And that is that really comes out in that first sutta. So that was really nice.
Do you want to add something to it?
I think that's what the Buddha suktas are so precious. Like every time we go through one sutta, it helps us to cultivate something that is wholesome and related to our own practice. These are so precise. We are just like the guides to read the suktas and let us all understand. But the actual teacher is the Buddha himself and the Dhamma. We are just the practitioners on the path.
The actual teacher is us, because we are seeing this phenomena in our mind and recognizing it. So the Bhante says that we are the guides, but you are the teachers, because once you see that in your mind, the arising, how it kind of shapes up, and how the attention kind of makes difference in things, then you are learning for yourself, and then you are teaching yourself that how the attention should be developed. So as kind of Everett said that he found out that putting attention on the unwholesome to suppress it can kind of increase that unwholesome. But let it be in the background. When you recognize, you release it. Then relax, re-smile, and be with your object of meditation. That is the wholesome. And then the wholesome will have opportunity to develop. So that is how you teach yourself and develop.
And also it is more like the knowing is from the suttas to from the Dhamma, and the seeing is for ourselves, to our individual minds.
Yes,
Knowing and seeing for. Okay, anybody else want to share something? Whatever insight or something regarding the practice. We can share the merits then.
Okay.
And before sharing merits, I just want to remind everyone, like, just keep in mind whatever persons in your surroundings who are like suffering, your family members or whoever it might be, or if there is an event, if there is someone's birthday, just remember them for a moment, and then we'll share the merits. You can share the merits to all of them as well.
May suffering ones be
suffering free, and fearless be.
May
May
the
the grieving
shed all grief.
and may
May
all
all beings find it. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, Devas and Nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they Lord protect the Buddha's dispensation. So, thank you everybody for coming, and
thank you, Bhante, for giving me the opportunity.
And we need you to come back more often. And in Wednesday, I think Shubham is going to come. So next Wednesday at 7:30. Okay then. Thanks for coming, everybody. Bye.